When a Dodge Charger starts acting up, most people immediately blame the spark plugs, the coils, or even the transmission. But one of the most common hidden culprits is the fuel pump. And when it starts to fail, it doesn't just quit instantly, it sends out warning signs. Today, we're breaking down every major symptom of a bad fuel pump on a Dodge Charger, what each one feels like, and why it happens. If your Charger is showing any of these signs, you'll want to pay close attention. Hard starting or long crank times. One of the earliest and most overlooked symptoms is a long crank when starting the engine. Instead of firing up immediately, the Charger cranks and cranks and cranks. It sounds like it wants to start, but it just can't get enough fuel pressure to ignite the mixture properly. This happens because the fuel pump is struggling to build pressure in the fuel rail. A healthy pump primes instantly when you turn the key, but a weak pump takes longer or sometimes fails to prime at all. You'll notice this especially after the car sits overnight. It's subtle at first, but it gets worse over time, and it's one of the clearest early warnings that the pump is on its way out. Hesitation, jerking, or surging while driving. A failing fuel pump can't maintain steady fuel pressure. That inconsistency shows up as hesitation, jerking, or sudden surges in power. You press the gas, and instead of smooth acceleration, the car hesitates for a moment, then suddenly catches up. This is most noticeable when you're accelerating hard, merging onto the highway, or climbing a hill. The engine demands more fuel, but the pump can't keep up. The Charger feels like it's gasping for fuel, because it literally is. Many drivers mistake this for transmission issues, but the root cause is usually fuel starvation. Stalling at idle or while driving. Stalling is one of the most dramatic and dangerous symptoms of a failing fuel pump. The engine may shut off at a stoplight, or even while cruising at speed. When the pump loses pressure completely, the engine simply runs out of fuel and dies. What makes this symptom tricky is its unpredictability. The car may run fine for an hour, then suddenly stall without warning. If the pump is overheating internally, stalling becomes more frequent during long drives or in hot weather. Once the pump cools down, the car may restart until it overheats again. This cycle is a classic sign of a pump that's near failure. Loss of power under load. When you push the Charger hard, accelerating, towing, or climbing a steep hill, the engine needs a richer fuel mixture. A weak pump can't deliver enough fuel volume or pressure, so the engine runs lean. The result? A noticeable loss of power. The car feels sluggish, unresponsive, and unwilling to climb in RPMs. You press the gas, but the Charger just doesn't have the muscle it used to. This symptom gets worse the harder you push the car, and it's one of the most obvious signs that the pump is struggling. Whining or humming noise from the fuel tank. A healthy fuel pump makes a soft, barely noticeable hum. But when it's failing, that hum becomes a loud whining, buzzing, or high-pitched whirring sound coming from the rear of the car. This noise is the pump struggling to spin due to internal wear, clogged filters, or overheating. The sound often gets louder when the fuel level is low because the pump relies on fuel for cooling and lubrication. If you hear a constant, noticeable whine from the tank area, the pump is likely on its last legs. Misfires, rough idle, or shaking. When fuel pressure drops, the air-fuel mixture becomes unstable. Cylinders begin firing inconsistently, causing misfires, shaking, and a rough idle. You may feel the whole car vibrate at stoplights or notice the RPM needle bouncing slightly. These misfires are often mistaken for bad spark plugs or ignition coils. But if the ignition system checks out, the next suspect is fuel delivery. A weak pump creates inconsistent pressure, which leads to inconsistent combustion. And that's exactly what misfires feel like. Poor fuel economy. A failing fuel pump can actually cause the engine control module to compensate by adjusting fuel trims. Ironically, this can lead to more fuel being injected in an attempt to stabilize combustion. The result? Worse fuel economy that you'll find yourself filling up more often even though your driving habits haven't changed. While poor MPG can have many causes, when combined with other symptoms on this list, it strongly points toward a failing pump. Complete no-start condition. This is the final stage of fuel pump failure. The engine cranks normally, but it never fires. There's no sputtering, no coughing, just endless cranking. At this point, the pump can no longer build any fuel pressure at all. The engine is essentially starved of fuel. If you listen closely when turning the key to the on position, you may not hear the pump prime anymore. That silence is often the last confirmation that the pump has died completely. Check engine light with lean codes. A failing pump often triggers lean condition codes such as P0171 or P0174. These codes indicate that the engine is receiving too much air and not enough fuel. While vacuum leaks or sensor issues can also cause lean codes, when they appear alongside hesitation, stalling, or hard starts, the fuel pump becomes the prime suspect. The computer is essentially telling you that fuel delivery is no longer meeting demand. Difficulty maintaining speed. On the highway, a healthy charger maintains speed effortlessly. But with a weak pump, you may feel the car slowly losing speed even though your foot is steady on the gas. This happens because the pump can't sustain the fuel pressure required for steady cruising. The engine begins to starve, forcing you to press the accelerator harder just to maintain speed. Over time, this becomes more noticeable and more frequent. A failing fuel pump rarely dies instantly. It usually gives you a series of warnings, long cranks, hesitation, whining noises, stalling, before it finally quits. Recognizing these symptoms early can save you from being stranded and prevent damage to other components. If your Dodge Charger is showing any combination of these signs, it's time to inspect the fuel system before the pump fails completely.